Everyone, so it's a very beautiful weather today, and I thought of talking about this one topic that was there in my mind, and that's basically distasteful phases. All right, now every human being, each of us, we go through various phases in our life, right? Some phases are really good, they give you one of the finest experiences you will ever have, sorry. And then there are some phases that literally like rip you apart. You feel like what exactly is happening, or I did not sign up for this. And then there are very interesting quotes around it, that the toughest battles are given to the toughest soldiers and stuff like that. Okay, it just helps you ease out the pain or ease out the whatever mental agony that you are going through. But eventually that's that. So yeah, let's just call that phase as a distasteful phase. Okay. And to give an example of what a distasteful phase is like, let's say you are in a relationship with a girl or with a boy, and things are going really well, in your mind at least. And then, you start seeing that you guys are falling apart, things are not really working, you are having some sort of issues, and this and that, which is a very normal thing in any relationship, okay? But one fine day, your partner tells you that they no more want to be with you. Now in that case, you are heartbroken. You did not expect that. And so at this point, you feel that, okay, this is very distasteful experience. And then starts the phase of distasteful adventures, if I have to say. Wherein, every other day you're thinking, oh, did I do this wrong? Did I do that wrong? And various other things. And to get out of that phase, you need some level of understanding about yourself, and then also maybe take up therapy, take up something else that really helps you get out of that phase. Basically, healing is what you call that, right? But there is one more thing about healing, that it doesn't happen in a way you think it to happen, right? I think I cooked up some English over there. But what I mean is, a lot of times we feel that healing has to be linear, that some things you do and then you feel healed at one point of time. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. Healing happens in a way you can't even expect, you can't even name. It's more of a subjective thing. It works in a different way for each and every person, right? So anyway, that is what I'm trying to say. So you try to heal, but there is no such point in that healing process where you feel that, okay, you are completely healed. You might feel that you are healed, but eventually those thoughts, they might come up, and that's what it is. So getting out of a distasteful phase, but in a way you had not even expected. Okay, that is one example. Another example to that could be, let's say someone's lost a job. Okay, they lost a job. Now they are making n number of applications. They are seeing those unfortunately mails, and they are like, what am I even good for? Like, the person might have even applied to a job that is very close to what they were doing earlier, and yet they got rejected. Now there are various reasons for rejections, but let's just say that they have got rejected. And at this point, when a person faces, let's say, 100 rejections out of the 100 job applications that they have made, they start thinking, am I even good? And I know that's not how you're supposed to think, but what can we do? When a person has really given everything in every application, made sure that they are presenting themselves well, their experience as well, yet when they are rejected, that's when the self-doubt kicks in. Because when you have been known for doing something, and when you are actually applying to that particular job, and when you are being rejected for doing something that you are good at, that's when the confidence starts to drop. But anyway, but the person still perseveres. He still keeps on making applications, sends a lot of outreach mails, and does certifications and so on and so forth. So this is basically, the person is going through that distasteful phase. He did not sign up for this, but it happened because of a layoff. And then one particular day, the person receives an affirmation to their application. Okay, but interestingly, at this point, the company is not paying the person that well that they were earning earlier, right? So either they have to take up the job with the less salary, or they can keep on continuing with the applications. Now there are two sorts of responses here. One is the person won't take the job because the salary is not right. Fair enough, makes sense. And the other is he takes up the job for the experience with that low salary and eventually still continues with his pursuit to get the job that is right for him. Now both the approaches are right in my opinion, because these approaches are built on the basis of the circumstances that the person is going through, right? Let's say the person is going through a phase that's pretty prolonged, like they haven't worked for a big period of time after the layoff. So right now it's clear that they just need something in their life, some sort of structure, some sort of things going on, some sort of purpose, and so eventually they take up that job. Or it might happen that the person might be struggling financially and so they might take up the job. On the other hand, the other person might be from a well-to-do family, might have their own business, but they don't want to get into business, so they are just exploring options outside. So as long as they don't get the right option, they'll keep on exploring. Now all of these options that I said, they all depend on the person's circumstance, their perspective, and various other things. But anyway, so clearly when a person gets out of a distasteful phase, the first person might have thought that they would get out in a way wherein they'd get a job that is right for them, right? But eventually that job might not be right, but it might be right for the circumstances that they are in. So here they are getting out of that distasteful phase in ways they did not expect, but in ways that they may be needed, right? And that's how it is. At times you just have to take up those chances. You just have to take your chances. You just have to take whatever is there out there, so that what happens is, when you take that up, at least you have some experience going on, at least you have some structure to your day. And most importantly, if you don't enjoy the work, right, enjoy in the sense, see, there are two things when it comes to enjoyment. One, when you are getting paid but you don't enjoy the work, but you don't mind because you are getting paid, okay? On the other hand, when you're not even getting paid well and nor you are enjoying the work, that's when the inner urge starts to come up that I want to get out of this place. Alright, so now at least you have the salary coming in, you have some structure to your day, because of which you have a steady footing, okay? You have a steady footing through which you can move to another position. To give an example of this in a metaphorical sense, I can say that, let's say someone's in the sea, okay? They know how to swim, but since they are in the ocean, they do not see which direction they have to go, right? Which direction should they swim even? So they just start swimming, and at this point it is very difficult for that person to make a decision, because every direction that they choose, they are going to swim in that direction and their effort is going to go in that. So they have to be there is that inner voice that tells them that they have to be very spot on with the choice of their direction, right? And so at this point they might be expecting that this is a very distasteful experience, and the way to get out of it is maybe some sort of navy ship comes to rescue them, some sort of sailor comes to rescue them, and so on and so forth. But interestingly, what they see is a random log of wood comes floating their way, okay? Or what they see is a random guy with a very small boat, is a fisherman maybe, he is coming their way, and they are like, this is not what I expected, but anyway, if it works, it works. So they get into the boat, and now with the help of the fisherman, they can navigate their way to the shore, or with the help of the log, they can at least just trust the direction in which the log is going. In a way, it might lead to some sort of shore. So that's just what it is. So the person got out of the distasteful experience of being in the ocean by getting out through a fisherman's boat or a log of wood, which they did not expect, but this is something that they needed, and that's just how it is. So at times when we think that we are getting out of a distasteful phase in a certain way, this is just something that we are expecting based on all the things that we have seen, that we have maybe heard. but seldom life turns out in ways you want it to be. Of course, I mean, if you put efforts, if you give your 100% in something, it might turn out, but there are also exceptions that at times when you put your 100%, something else might turn up, and maybe that's not something that you want, but maybe that's something that you need for that very moment, and at times you got to take it, and that's just how it is. So that's that with the distasteful phase and getting out of it. For some reason today my thoughts were a bit jittery. I mean, like, they were running haywire with the examples because there were so many examples that I had. But anyway, either ways, I just tried to, like, sum it up. And that's that.